Welcome to the Politics of Peterborough podcast. I'm your host, Dave Adcock. In the coming weeks, voters in Peterborough will head to the polls in the 2026 local elections to decide who should represent them on the council for at least the next 2 years and help shape the city's future. In this mini-series of episodes, I'm speaking with representatives from each of the political parties currently represented on Peterborough City Council to understand their priorities, their ideas for the city, and how they believe the council should be run as we approach local government reorganisation. To make it easy for you to compare the parties, each representative in this series is being asked the same core set of questions: their party's vision and priorities, local government reorganisation, the council's finances, the local plan, housing and growth, and their record on the council. We'll then finish with the party-specific questions on the upcoming election. In this episode, representing the Conservative Party is Deputy Group Leader, Councillor Stephen Allen. Councillor Allen, welcome back to the Politics of Peterborough.
Hello, good to be with you again, Dave.
So let's start big picture. What's your party's clear vision for Peterborough until the completion of local government reorganisation if you make a number of gains in May?
Well, we're certainly hoping to make some gains. It's quite a fractious political situation at the moment, as you know, with lots of new parties entering the fray. But we still feel that the Conservative Party have a place to be at the table of any decisions made. And we are hoping to increase the amount of councillors that we have on the council, in the chamber. I suppose our priority is to ease the burden on hard-pressed residents, because we have financial challenges in our city at the moment, and indeed in the country and in the world, particularly with the current international situation in the Middle East and the ongoing issues in Europe. But so more councillors looking after residents' financial situation, keeping the outgoings to the minimum. I like the idea that Paul Bristow came up with free parking. I don't think you can have total free parking because there's a lot of revenue comes into the council from parking, but certain times, back in the day, I'm long enough in the tooth to remember Thursday night was a very busy night in town because you could park for free, and those kind of initiatives do make sense. So perhaps we'd look at that. But bear in mind that the Conservatives are always a low tax party. That's our philosophy.
What would the noticeable difference be for residents of the city if your party were to gain a leadership role after the election?
I'd like to think that we maintain good services, and perhaps we should say we would have better services. Until you get to the table, it's very difficult to know what you can do. So we're in opposition at the moment, so we're not a party to a lot of the opportunities available. But that's our instinct, to provide better services, consistently better services.
What's the party's first priority after the election, and how would you go about achieving it?
Again, when you get to the table, you know what you can do. So it's no good sort of offering pie in the sky. We would look at the opportunities and max them. We like supporting cycling and walking initiatives, but we also don't want to see a war on the motorist. So I hope I'm not being too glib with that response, but that's the instinct. So yes, healthy travel, but also make sure that motorists are not pounded with overt taxes and lack of opportunity to travel in their motor car where they want to.
This week we discovered that Peterborough's bid to be the UK City of Culture in 2029 had unfortunately not been successful. Despite that, were your party behind the bid, and what do you think the city's strongest cultural selling point is?
Yes, we were behind the bid, notionally. Indeed, when I was in the position of Cabinet Member for Culture and Recreation, it's something that I majored on. And at that particular time, the officers were not too keen to push it forward because the thought was that it'd be quite costly to do the application. But I think that they got some private enterprise on board to apply this time. It's a great shame we didn't get it. I'm very much in favour of anything that brings our city advantages and brings it to the fore. You're saying what have we got in the city that I don't think it's just Walter leaping off Briley's. I mean, that's okay to use as a little flagship, as it were. But I think that what we want to do is big up the fantastic Lido that we have, the Cathedral, Flag Fen, Neen Park, and the city centre stadium that is being muted by Paul Bristow as the Metro Mayor, but also something that we would support.
What do you think could be worked upon to improve the city's chances in 2033?
Well, I think we want to major on those. I mean, they are the major planks of our application. Anything else that comes along, fine. We could also, of course, max out the diversity that our city has and the cohesive diversity that we have. Really, we all rub along pretty well in this city, and ever more shall it be so.
The government is currently pursuing local government reorganisation, with Peterborough City Council due to merge with at least part of, if not multiple, neighbouring district councils. Firstly, what's your party's view on the idea as a whole?
Well, it's something that's going to happen whether we like it or not. I am somewhat concerned about humongous coming together of various councils. It takes away the localism of what you expect from your local council. However, I don't like the cockamamie ideas that were put forward by the two MPs, whereby we just have Peterborough and a little sliver of Huntingdon. It doesn't stack, it makes no sense financially, and it'll take forever to pay for. So what I would do is support option A, which is the coming together of Peterborough, Fenland and Huntingdon. That's economy of scale. Bear in mind that Peterborough was the county of Peterborough and Huntingdonshire some years ago, so it's not too far a departure from that by just adding in Fenland. And then you would have a new Cambridgeshire split into two halves. I don't think splitting into thirds, into three different options, makes any kind of sense. So the North Authority and the South Authority. That's the way I would go for it.
What are some of the potential benefits of LGR, and how would your party ensure that they're realised?
Well, better value, really. I mean, you haven't got to employ lots of chief executives on high salaries. No disrespect to our chief executive, and they all deserve a high salary. But why have three of them when one will do? So, better value and economy of scale is what I would push for the idea of local government reorganisation.
On the flip side, what are the potential risks to the city, and how would your party mitigate them?
The risks are that it doesn't happen or work financially. So, and really we all have to get behind it. It's no good having lots of former councillors who are in position of power not getting on with each other. So the risk is the fact that people don't work together. Working together is something you have to do in politics. I don't think that we should have remote authorities, so the two that I've mentioned should be the ones that we go for. Option A gives you that opportunity. Government funding for adult social care and children's services will be the biggest burdens, and that's what Peterborough has to handle in a very small scale. You make it on a larger scale, the more funding comes in to afford that.
The council is still £500 million in debt with depleted cash reserves, but will find itself with a significant increase in core funding from central government after the fairer funding review. Where does your party believe the focus should be for the additional funding?
We're very grateful for the fairer funding outcome because as a party we were pushing for it for many years. So it's excellent that we have that funding coming in. Fairer funding will see us certainly have the opportunity to run a council that is financially stable and is long overdue.
Many residents feel they continue to pay more in council tax but see little improvement in services, with no end to these increases in sight. How would your party ensure residents get better value for money from the council?
I just think you need a group of council officers working cohesively with councillors to make sure that every penny is well spent. That's the secret. So there'll always be people think that they're paying more than they should, and there'll always be people thinking that perhaps we haven't got things in Peterborough that elsewhere are expected. But ultimately, you've only got a certain amount of money coming into the pot, and you have a lot of demands on the outgoings. And I've mentioned before, children's services and adult services. These are the great, it's 70% coming on for 80% of the income for the council goes out on those two essential requirements. With a larger area, option A for instance, you have more tax coming in to ease the burden of those outgoings. Being a unitary, we have the burden of, wrong word burden, but certainly the expense of those two outgoings. As you got a larger area with more tax revenue to afford the payments, and it will be much better balanced, I think.
Some of the financial decisions made by the council in recent years have been questioned by the public. What would your party do to improve transparency and rebuild public trust in council's financial decision making?
Yeah, well, there's a wonderful piece of information put out by council officers called myth busting, whereby it does address all of those challenges, council debt levels, for instance. You've got to remember, when you invest in something, it has a value on the book. So we are talking about, we're in debt to X amount, but that's produced lots of good schools, it's produced roads, it's produced stuff that the city needs, and you've got to fund that. A lot of businesses are funded by debt, providing you have assets that are greater than the debt. That's the secret. Now, I think that we have to bear in mind the challenges that we went through as an administration, COVID and the European war. COVID obviously locked us all down for almost a year with added costs. And then the Euro war meant that projects that wanted to be moving forward after COVID were hampered by supply chain. So the Hilton, which I think you would obviously refer to, if only on the side, the Hilton was a great idea. I will not be berated over that, although it's not something I had part of the decision making. I was on the council after that decision had been made, but I think it was a great concept. Many, many years ago, I was a kid and people talked about the South Bank, how we must improve the South Bank. And it was not until much later in my life that we actually realised that. And it was the catalyst of things like the San Martin House, the Riverside Flats, and indeed the promised Hilton Hotel that got that project rolling. And you look at it now, it's a different world to most of Peterborough. Lots to do though, because there's still the old warehouse that needs to be turned into a food market or whatever. But I'm really pleased to see the mill, the grain store, now proceeding apace, and I think they're going to do a great job with that. So I think that you say the decisions made by the council, many of them were good decisions, but they were hampered by circumstances.
Under the current local plan in development, there are significant housing or industrial development sites earmarked for the outskirts of Castor, Wittering and Stanground. How would your party balance housing and economic growth with the protection of green spaces?
Well, it's essential to balance it. The answer is in the question. You have to balance it. I mean, you're talking about Castor. That's quite controversial, because clearly it's a wonderful area, that John Clare countryside around Castor and Helpston and such like. The Langdyke Trust do a wonderful job of promoting that area, and I would be supportive of a measured development around there. I know the government, back in the days of the Development Corporation, government funding had Castor as one of the townships. They escaped that option, but don't think Castor can forever say that it's not going to have any development. That would be a ridiculous situation. It's like having in your cupboard fine china that you never bring out, even when the guests come, because someone might damage it. Castor has to play its part. But equally as well, it has to be done with sensitivity to the wonderful countryside around there. And you also refer to the other areas of Wittering and such like, Stanground. Stanground really has done quite well with the development. I think it's been quite sensitive. And I think that on the road out to Whittlesea by the river, that is also quite controversial. There's some warehousing going in there. There's nothing wrong with that. Providing the road infrastructure is improved accordingly. What you don't want is gridlock roads because industry arrives next to residential areas.
With the pace of population growth in the city over the last 2 decades, many feel that the accompanying infrastructure hasn't kept pace, with a lack of doctors, dentists, hospital beds and leisure facilities, etc. What would your party do to ensure that A, these deficits are rectified, and B, future development won't see a repeat of this situation?
Regretfully, doctors are not part of the council's remit. They are private businesses and they arrive where they think they might find commercial success. We do need a regular increasing supply of doctors to match population increase. That's a given. It's probably outside the remit of the council, although all efforts will be made to make sure that residents are provided with the kind of facilities you expect in a civil society. I think that investment in the NHS is essential, more doctors essential, and we have to accept the fact that we are in a world now where perhaps some of your healthcare has to be paid for by yourself. When I say that, private medicine is what I'm referring to. And I know lots of friends who have private medicine and revel in it. I haven't. I'm quite happy. The National Health Service has always served me well from a baby, from the era when the National Health Service was first launched through to my near dotage now. I've always been well served by the National Health Service, and we mustn't neglect it.
Several development and redevelopment projects have been long planned but are yet to be realised. The Hilton Hotel we've mentioned, North Westgate, a new purpose for the Guildhall, a new stadium for Peterborough United. How would your party get these projects completed whilst ensuring they genuinely benefit residents, businesses and visitors?
Well, North Westgate is an ongoing sore in our city. As you arrive in Peterborough on a fast train from London, jump off the train and see that area, which has been so neglected, urban decay. It is in the hands of a developer, a well-known gentleman who has been investing in the land purchase there for a period of time, but hasn't yet come up with a plan to make it work. You could have an inner city stadium there. That's an option from my point of view. I know others want to place it elsewhere, but I think that would be an ideal location for it. But it's not for me to develop it. It's down to Mr. Breach to make it happen. And the council should help him make it happen, even if it comes down to compulsory purchase. The Guildhall, got to be done. Across the road in the park, across the road from my house, should I say, in the park, there's a restaurant that I know was an inspiration for a guy many years ago. Vince Terranova opened that, and he wanted to turn the Guildhall into a coffee bar and cafe, and he wanted to put plate glass windows and such like. Great idea, didn't happen. And since then it's been spoke about on many occasions since, but it needs to happen. It's not just Peterborough that could do it. It's been done in Oundle quite successfully and other cities I've visited. So the Guildhall needs to happen. The new stadium that we are talking about has got to come from business investment. It's not a council job. Council can encourage it and facilitate it and make it happen, but come on, the football stadium we have at the moment is not fit for purpose. I don't go there that often anymore, but I quite like Posh's success, and a better stadium which could serve the population by putting on concerts and such like would be even more advantageous, wherever it is.
Based on your party's record on Peterborough City Council, why should voters trust you with an increased number of councillors which might give you a leadership role moving forward?
Well, because we're not daft, we're sensible, pragmatic people. We don't have pie-in-the-sky aspirations. We're methodical, and I think the Conservatives are a party of business-friendly councillors. We need to make sure that our city has a practical, pragmatic, business-like approach to the future. And I think that we don't want parties in the town hall proclaiming their love of somewhere else in the world or wanting to change things somewhere else in the world. Concentrate on Peterborough. That's what you're elected for. You're not an international politician.
It's almost a certainty that the council will remain in no overall control after the elections. What's your party's approach to coalition or cross-party working going forwards?
We always work to win. I think you asked the same question of any national party. No, we're not going to enter into a coalition. Coalitions can serve a purpose. I didn't mind the Conservative/Liberal Democrat coalition. I think that worked quite well, suited the country at the time. I mean, on the council now, we have a hodgepodge of different parties, all with not enough to have control. But I do think that it makes for a weak council. It means that officers run the council rather than politicians. And I'd love to have 31 Conservative seats. Whether we would need to go into a coalition at any stage will be something we would consider at the time.
The local Conservatives have consistently outperformed the national results and polling for at least the last 20 years. Do you see that trend continuing this year?
I hope so. I think we work hard for success. We've got some very good committed councillors, and we need to add some more that we have for this year's elections to the total. So I would have thought that we would end up after the elections with some extra councillors rather than the amount we have at the moment. Don't forget, you have within our group Councillor Fitzgerald, a very experienced leader on the council for 20 years. Myself, I'm entering my 11th year in May, former deputy leader. Councillor Soresti, a former leader, well-known local businessman. We have Councillor Howard, former deputy leader of the group of councillors that nudged us out of power. But John's rejoined us, he saw the folly of his ways, and he is a valuable member of our team. And then, of course, you have Councillor Lynn Ayres, former solicitor in the city. And we've got some great talent, and we've got some new talent in the wings waiting to be elected in May.
How distinct is the local Conservative group from the National Party in terms of priorities and approach?
Well, we adhere to Conservative principles. We're members of the Conservative Party. I don't see there's any divergence between local and national Conservative members. Clearly, the councillors on a local council have to deal with local issues, bins and dog poo and such like, rather than stuff in Europe and stuff in the Middle East. So my point that I made earlier, if you don't mind me repeating it, is that you're electing local councillors to deal with local issues.
The Fletton and Woodstone by-election last month saw the Conservative vote numbers drop by more than a third on 2024. You have 7 defences this year, although only 3 have a sitting Conservative councillor. Do you fear that a wipeout is a possibility this time round?
No, we will work hard to win. We have, as I've mentioned, some good sitting councillors. We have some councillors standing for a re-election. The hard-working Scott Warren in Breton. I hope he's back with us because he deserves to be. He puts his heart and soul into that area. A really good local councillor. So I would hope he would get elected. We want to see Gul Nawaz back on the council, former mayor, stalwart of the Ravensthorpe area. He needs to be back with us. John Peach, a former mayor, former deputy police and crime commissioner, standing in Eyethorne in Newborough. Be great to see John back with us. And I'm sorry if I've missed anybody, but there's some great candidates out there that we want to get on board. And it would strengthen Peterborough City Council's value to the residents if they could be elected.
What does a good result for the Conservative look like this year?
1 more seat than we've got at the moment. An excellent result would be 6 more seats than we've got at the moment, or 10 more seats, or whatever. So we work to get success, and we will continue to do that right up until the last knockings of the poll.
So is any going backwards to be seen as a failure if that happened?
No one wants to go backwards. We all aspire to go forwards in life, and so as a political party, I would want to go forward with some successes.
The Conservatives have topped the polling in Peterborough every local election going back to 1997. Do you see that continuing this year, or with the rise of Reform, do you think that might come to an end this time around?
I think Reform are a protest party. If people are still in the mood to protest, they may get a seat or 2. I don't know. All I would say is that Kemi Badenoch is a fantastic leader. She, what under new management, I think, is the way to look at the Conservative Party nationally, in as much that the errors of the way back in the day, and if you're in power for a long, long time, clearly things are going to slip here and there. But generally, I was happy with the Conservative Party under Rishi Sunak. But I think Kemi Badenoch is an excellent leader, and she's inspired the party. I went to the conference again this year, and I've never seen so much enthusiasm for a leader and the policies they were putting forward. So onward and upward is the answer to your question.
Now, you mentioned already that you see this very much, it's a local election, it's about local issues. But in terms of the electorate, how much do you think that this will be about local issues, and how much about national and international issues?
I fear that they will creep into the people's decision-making protest. I mean, when I knock on the doors, I was out yesterday doing some canvassing, and someone said, we want to stop the boats. Well, what, on the Nene? Peterborough City Council, really, you're voting for a local councillor who has no ability to stop the boats on the Nene or on the Channel. So let's get real. What you're talking about is local facilities, local issues, local initiatives, and will that councillor, that candidate, be the kind of guy you want to represent you? Ask him questions. Make sure he's passionate. Make sure he's committed. Make sure he can articulate your point of view in the council chamber. That's who you're voting for.
After more than 2 decades of running the council, your party has spent the last 2 years in opposition. What has the party learned from this period?
Well, I'll say Kemi Badenoch, her mantra is we're under new management. What I've always learned in life is you learn from your errors and your mistakes. Question which mistakes and which errors people want to point out. But generally, I'm proud of the Conservative years in power. I only shared 10 of them, and we're 20 odd in power. I don't think there are too many mistakes. People shouting at their radio now, but we will pursue the kind of policies that people expect from a Conservative administration. And if we're not the administration, we'll pursue the kind of policies people expect us to talk about in the chamber.
What do you think the Conservatives' strongest legacy is in Peterborough from their time in power?
Crikey. Schools, roads, Peterborough. I hate I'm born and bred Peterborough, Thorpe Hall and Lincoln Road Boys School. Proud of Peterborough. And Peterborough is a very, very good city, and it's underrated by too many of its residents, albeit those that are shouting loudest on social media, rather than getting on with bringing up their families, making sure that they are contributing to the society that we all share.
My final question is this. If listeners have a Conservative Party candidate in their ward in May, why should they vote for them?
Well, as I've said before, what you need to do is talk to that said candidate, make sure that he is committed, he or she, sorry for that mistake, that misspeak. Make sure that the candidate is committed, is passionate, is knowledgeable and has staying power. Not in politics just to stick their chest out and tell their community that they are now in the town hall and important. What you want is someone who's going to work for you.
Councillor Allen, thank you for joining me on the Politics of Peterborough.
Thank you.